Hello, good evening, good day, good welcome to all of you out there in YouTube land and on our podcast. You have reached Johnny Has the Keys, a very, very, very special episode, which in case you can't tell by the 3 pictures as opposed to your normal 2. This is David and Tim here with you, and we are very, very excited to have our first ever official special guest. We have had guests on the podcast before, but usually we are talking about their opinions of one particular film. This one is a little bit different because we have ALOK Mishra. Is it Mishra? Is the last name?
You got it. You got it right. You said it right.
ALOK Mishra here, who is one of the producers of a film that Tim saw first and then turned me onto, and we both have really good experiences with it, and we're going to talk with him about that. My name is David. Like I said, this is Tim here. ALOK, let me give a brief synopsis, and you tell me where I go wrong or what I need to add to it. But basically, the synopsis of this particular film, it's called 1BR, which I think for those of us, any of us who have been in the rental world, stands for 1 bedroom, and the way you would see it in an advertisement. But basically, it is a thriller, I would think. Is a good classification for it, or do you want it in the horror realm?
It's really what it is. At the end of the day, it's a psychological thriller with elements of horror. I would say psychological thriller with elements of horror.
Very well said.
It kind of skirts the line between horror and thriller, I would tell you. And has psychological elements.
And we basically are following a young woman who is leaving home under very kind of estrangement from her family. She's living on her own for the first time. She's found a perfect place, though, with a little gated community, and slowly that gated community turns into like a prison for her, sort of thing. I don't want to give a lot away because there's so much about this movie that changes and twists and works so well. But I did want to start by asking, how did this come about? How did the movie? What's the origin of the movie, and how did you guys get together to create it and to develop it?
Well, our writer-director, his name is David Marmer. He actually had lived in an apartment much like this. He also had sort of a misbegotten cat, a cat that wasn't allowed. He was always like very nervous about it because he's such a nice guy. He was always worried the cat would run out the door and then he'd be kicked out and found out and the whole thing. And it basically started with him. It was his experiences, and then as you live in Southern California, as he did, and as we all do, most of the production was in LA. Except for Nicole Bryden Bloom, who was in New York, actually, our lead, Sarah. So everyone has sort of lived in one of those apartments, frankly. Everyone looked at this apartment was like, yeah, I lived here, So we all had that sort of experience. David more so. And David actually got very interested, and this is a bit of a spoiler of sorts, but got really interested in cults and how Southern California seems to have like a huge proliferation of these kinds of organizations. And started kind of combine his experience, his loneliness of living in this huge place which has tons of people, yet you're very much alone, right? Or you can be very alone. We drive cars everywhere, we do this, that, the other, so you can literally get up, go to work, come back, and maybe the only people you might see are maybe a couple of people who are hanging outside your apartment or walking down the hall even. Like I said, it's a very lonely place, Los Angeles. They took all of those elements of those things and sort of the paranoia that comes knowing or not knowing your neighbors, and put them into this story, which my producing partner Shane Borster and I got from his managers, Allard Cantor and Jared Murray, who were also producers on the film. So we had one of those douchebag lunches with his managers about like, what are you working on? What projects are you working on? And he sent me 2 scripts, actually. One of them was 1 bedroom, and the other one was this movie called Tragedy Girls. And it's a great film as well, a horror comedy, directed by Tyler McIntyre. But he sent me both scripts, and I proceeded to not read them for 6 months. And then I finally got the wherewithal to pick up. I had another project fell through, and I was like, I'm freaked out. What am I going to work on next? And I started reading scripts like left and right. Found these two scripts. The Tragedy Girls was a horror comedy. I'm never interested in doing those because I think they're hard to satisfy each audience for those. I used to test movies for a living. I used to do market research for film for 18 years. I did that for the studios here in town. And so, doing that, you kind of realize, okay, well, this is a lot easier to sell and this is a lot easier to market. And so 1BR became the winner out of those two. In fact, I called the managers up, hey, listen, I love this 1BR. The other one, I just can't do it. And they're like, oh, well, that other one just finished filming a week ago. And I'm like, well, what do I know? We met with I met with David. We went and had a coffee and we talked about movies and sensibilities, and he was super smart, nice guy. He's incredibly intelligent. He won't tell you he went to Harvard. Started a video game company, got sold to Activision, and he came back to USC to do. He wanted to go to, I think, NYU, but he got into USC, my alma mater, and he got into directing program there. And like a lot of his compatriots, like the guys that wrote the last two Star Wars movies, and all these like really cool cats, and so they've been a big supportive system for him in a lot of ways. But anyway, he just had a great script, and so we were like, well, he's never directed anything besides shorts before. We've never actually produced a film before, so really, what could go wrong? And
what could go wrong?
So many things, but you get through them together, and so we decided to go on this journey together, and that's sort of how it came together. And everyone else, we depend on the expertise of some other producers we had on board to help us sort of negotiate, putting all the departments together, all the talented people who became our DP and our line producers and whatever else. So this was a partner in our first film. Like we had tested movies before, but we had never done this. And so we decided to kind of put our money where our mouth is. I may have allegedly mortgaged an already us to make this movie very stupidly, but it worked out in the mobile. But there was time to sweat, as the journey. So we went along our journey. There was a lot of different obstacles that came on our way that could have ended the whole thing very quickly. But yeah, I'm sure we'll talk about those too.
Yeah.
but I'll tell you this: it is called 1BR in the United States and Canada and a lot of countries actually. But there are certain countries where they have no idea what that real estate abbreviation means.
Right.
And that's like the UK and Australia, for example, which I never would have imagined, but apparently they have no idea what that means. So over there, it's called apartment 1BR. And in Japan, it's called Madhouse. In Germany, it's called Welcome to the Nightmare, or something like this. Welcome into the Opportunity or something. I don't know, whatever nightmare is in Germany, but that's what it means.
Okay.
It's called, what else is there? 1BR, the apartment, in certain parts of Europe, and
no also, redundancy allowed.
Yeah, I mean, it's but if you Google 1BR, it comes up with the different iterations of it, and I think if you're in Prime and in like what's it called, Brazil or something, it'll come up 1BR o apartamento or something, like it's different. It always comes up, so you'll be able to find it no matter what.
Well, and we've had that before with films that we've reviewed, and suddenly it was originally, published or released under this title, and then in France it's this title, in China it's this title. So yeah, we totally understand that they'll market it to whatever works best for their market, of course.
Right. Yeah, I mean, we tried to keep the brand the same for a while, and then it just got away from us. Like they were just calling it whatever they wanted. I was like, I don't care as long as people watch it. It's all good. And so yeah.
Well, David is very good at asking technical questions as far as movie making. I'm more of the snoop. I kind of went online and dug and wanted to ask some things that I found I was curious about. And from what I understand, before the film was, or I guess maybe in pre-production, there was a major fire that forced all you guys to work out of your house as far as the business operations. Is that true?
Yeah, there's a great article, Movie Maker magazine let me write an article about everything that went wrong with the movie.
Mm-hmm.
And in that article, they actually have links to different things. Like if you look up Movie Maker magazine in 1BR, you'll find the article very easy. But they show like links like to the fire itself. Like it was like on Mulholland next to the Getty Museum, and our
Yeah.
our office is right across from the Getty Museum. And
Okay.
like the whole thing was on fire. It looked like Mordor from like Lord of the Rings. There's
Wow.
like footage of someone going down there like at like the
Mm-hmm.
night it started, and like the whole thing's burning. And we can't even get to the office because it's just like it's all shut off. And they're like, you can't come here. We don't know if it's burned or not. And we're looking on Google Earth to try to see if we can see, the office in some way. It's just a white plume of smoke, and we're just like, okay, maybe it's there, maybe it's not. But the only good
Wow.
news is it was next to the veterans graveyard there. There's a veterans graveyard right there. And I knew there was no way they're gonna let those people burn twice, or whatever, like die horrible death twice. Like, I mean, they've already
Of
given
course.
their soul to God and country and whatever. So you figure like they were bringing in these big like tanker planes, like whatever, and just dropping just oceans of water on everything
Wow.
and stuff. And so
Mm-hmm.
figured it wouldn't go away, but we were just like, and so yeah, that was one of the many problems that occurred. But luckily, the office was still there.
Okay.
But other things then occurred in addition to that.
Well,
Wow.
on the good side of it, one of the first things that came out of this when I watched it, because Tim, we have a part of the podcast we do, which is, coming to get you, or our genre week. So what did you do that wasn't related to this current film we're talking about that you did this week? And one of those that came up, Tim tends to hover over the shutter aisles all the time, as we used to say in
Mhm.
blockbuster terms, and watches his horror movies. And he said, I watched this one, it was really good, it was 1BR, you got to see it. And I kind of put it on my list, but then put it off. And then finally I went, I think I will watch that because I like the poster a lot, so let's see. And I was blown away. One of the things that blew me away first was the cast. I thought
Mhm.
you guys, the separation between any kind of first film effort or some lower budget, as they say, sort of efforts, tends to be casting. And do you have the cast for it, or are you using third-rate actors who are on their last leg before they go to the actors graveyard or actors retirement home or whatever sort of thing? And you guys, first of all, Nicole is brilliant. I think without her, you wouldn't have had the strength I think that this movie has, because it's 80% of this movie is her reaction to everything, of course, because it's her POV, it's her story. How did you
Mhm.
find her?
Well, it's actually a really crazy story in terms of what actually happened with the casting, because
Mm-hmm.
we had initially, okay, so David, we all love Nicole's her audition, right?
Mm-hmm.
And she was like, okay, I mean, I think this could be the young lady. And all of a sudden, this other very successful TV actress comes in, the seductress, if you will. She comes in and she's just like, I read the script, and we're like, who gave you the script? Like, it was on like what else? I was like, okay, I don't care who gave the script, just you liked it. And she's like, yeah, I want to do it. And we're like, all right, well, that just puts us in the black right away. And then she like, and this is, maybe something you don't want to do as a lesson learned going forward. She was like really insistent. She was like, look, let my friend, I said this in quotes, I don't know if it was a friend or allegedly a boyfriend or whatever. I can't, comment on it one way or other. But it was just some dude who's on some like, shitty CW vampire show that I've never watched in my life. But I was like, if he's good enough for the CW, good enough for us. And so we cast him. And we had another young, well, I say young, but I mean, she's an older female actress, but I call her young lady out of respect. And that was cast as Miss Stanhope.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Then, like, this is on a Monday. We're shooting on a Thursday. We have gone to Gelson's because as independent producers, you don't often have people to do all the monkey jobs, that the crap work that you need to get done in the film. So you that falls to you sometimes. This
Okay.
young lady who was going to be the actress in the film had this thing in her whatever contract. She needs this feminine energy drink. which was very highfalutin and fancy, and it didn't exist except for at the Gelson's and we found it. It was closest to us at the Gelson's in Marina Del Rey. Now, I can't say what this highfalutin energy drink was, but people were so nice to actually send us a pallet of it up to the roof. This thing went, right? There's that much energy drink, right? And what ends up happening is that I'm in Gelson's. We don't. This isn't going to arrive until 2 days in production. So I'm like, we need to get this fucking energy drink for her, right? Sorry, I curse a lot, but
that's okay.
So it's fine.
So I'm in Gelson's getting this energy drink, and I've gotten like, taste of it, but I don't know if that's quite enough for this young lady and how much she consumes and whatever. So I asked the manager, "Can you go back in the back and find some more?" He's like, "I don't think there's going to be any more, but I'll go check." Meanwhile, we get a call from her agent. She's out. Gives no reason. Whatever. Just contracts that have been signed. Doesn't matter. She's just out. And what's next is we get a call from her friend, her, the other male cast lead who was the Brian character, right? He was the Brian character. He's out too. And we're like, holy
perfect.
Shit. Like, this is 3 days before we're shooting. So we go. The manager comes back in the meantime. He's like, we have a case of it. And I'm like, we don't need it. So, this poor guy. So I'm like, I'm sorry, we don't need it, So we put the other stuff back on the shelf. And we go next door. There's a place called the Yard House, which is a place that serves beer. So we lost all 3 leads, and then we called Nicole. Nicole agreed to come out, but she couldn't come out until Friday. So we backed the whole production up a week, Monday. And though we're sitting there now on Friday, we still haven't cast Miss Stanhope or the Brian character yet. And what ends up happening is that I end up getting a bunch of reels from friends about older female actresses, and Susan Davis was one of them. And there's a number at the end of a reel. I call the number, and actually it's her that answers the phone. I thought it was going to be her agent or manager, but it was her. And so I am like, this is highly inappropriate. Here's the thing. I'm just going to tell you about the movie, and I'm going to tell you about us, and let's just see what happens. And she's like, okay. So she's like, and by the end of it, she's like, well, I've never been in a cult movie before. And, Susan Davis is an old pro. She's been in War Games, and she's been in Darren Boozman movies.
I saw that.
And so she's an old pro. She was on the Rockford Files. She's actually Robert Altman's cousin. And he made her come out here because he's like, none of these broads can act out here. You need to come out here. And so she did. And she was very
That's
successful.
amazing.
Also a very successful voiceover actor. I didn't know that actually about her. She's done a ton of stuff in Japan that came out here. It was in the 80s and stuff.
Great.
Well, and she's not your only connection to war graves. Alan Bloomfield was in it too.
Alan Blumenfeld is too. We have 2 actors from there, like a teacher, and then he plays the teacher in the movie, and then she plays the mom. Right. But anyway, so what happened is that I talked to her at 9:30. By 11:30, we'd signed her. And then fast forward to 7:00 at night, we're sitting in Barney's Beanery drinking beer again because we're freaking out and pulling out our hair because we still don't have the Brian character. And we get a call finally, and we're calling our friends at Blumhouse and say, hey, listen, can you keep CAA open for us to help find us somebody, because they don't give a shit about our little movie, and nor does anybody else. Finally, we get a call at 7:30 from Gersh that Brian, that Giles Maddie, who plays Brian, is in. And we're like, why did he take all day to get to us? Well, he was driving down from San Francisco, had to pull over to the side of the road and just read the movie on his phone. And he just read his part. And I was very offended he had just read his part. But then my dear friend, Naomi Grossman, who's in the movie, plays Janice. She's also, she plays Pepper in American Horror Story. Fun fact for you.
Okay.
She told me, she educated me. She said, listen, sometimes we just want to work. And we'll just read the script and read our part to make sure it's not a porno or a snuff film. So I was like, all right, well, I can understand that. Okay.
Yeah,
so,
makes sense. Yeah.
Anyway, so that's what happened. And we just we're cheersing ourselves at 7:30 on a Friday, hoping to God everyone would show up on Monday, which they did. So that was another kind of bullet dodged. And can you imagine anyone in that role except for Nicole Bryden Bloom? She's just making it. She's amazing, and it's a star-making performance, really, in a lot of ways.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, she actually had to take off from our premiere to go read with Bryan Cranston, right? And sadly, she didn't get the part. It was for this Showtime show, The Judge or whatever. I think
The Judge, a new one.
Yep. But she is on an HBO show coming up, where she has a major part on this show that's called The Gilded Age.
I saw that.
She's in season 2 of it. It's coming. It hasn't come out yet.
I've heard of that.
There's 9 episodes of it. She's going to be in all 9 episodes, according to IMDb, I guess.
Yep.
So she's definitely getting work and stuff, and we'll have to see about what happens with the sequel. I can't say anything about it,
The
but yeah.
what?
So
Did you say sequel?
yes. Well, we can talk about that later in the thing, but like, we're just talking about all the disasters that befell us.
Well, I mean,
so,
they're happy accidents though, because I mean, look at the finished product.
I mean, look, it was, yeah. Look, that was one thing that happened that we were very glad that happened, right?
Well,
yeah.
But that wasn't the only happy accident that befell us, and I don't say happy in this regard because, after we had that happen to us, we're shooting the movie. It's a 14-day shoot, very stressful. And one of the nights, like the 8th night in, we're taking the trucks, and we're parking them outside our production office, thinking that it should be fine. Like, who's gonna, what's gonna happen? Thankfully, we have a parking PA in one of the trucks, and like in the middle of the night, on like night 8, this like white Escalade pulls up, no plate. 3 guys get out. We have 3 production trucks, like these box trucks, the white box trucks. And these guys start breaking into the first truck. And within like 6 minutes, they just sped off with the truck. And they didn't come to the middle truck. They just took one truck. They weren't greedy. But thank God they didn't, because the parking PA was sitting in the middle one, seeing all this happen, right? This guy gets out, I think he had a gun or something. Thank God they didn't come knocking. But anyway, this guy is like a, vigilante to the nth degree, and like the best, PA we've ever had. And he gets in his own car and gives chase. And he's on the phone with the police, and he's just like, listen, I'm following this car. I'm not too close to him, but I'm not too far behind, and I'm following his every move. And there's, sir, you need to stand down. And he's like, I will not stand down until you are behind this truck, And so he tails this truck all the way close to USC, goes across 3 different freeways, and all of a sudden, then then this is on TV. There's like a televised high-speed chase. So like the lights, like the helicopter lights shine down on this truck all at once, and then 2 cop cars rush in behind it. And this guy tries to gun it, get off the freeway, and he's destroying the engine. And he gets caught at McDonald's/Chevron station. And this is actually on the DVD and Blu-ray for the North America one.
Awesome.
I don't know about the rest of them. Okay. But this part is part of the we're giving a speech at Fantasia about this, and then they show the footage of this guy getting arrested and getting pulled out of the truck and everything. It turns out he's a handsome devil. He's a handsome felon. And so the police are just so nice to him. You always hear stories about the police in Los Angeles being very mean and like beating the shit out of people. But no, they're very kind to him. We hypothesized that he was like an actor, and he wasn't making the money, and things went wrong, and he went back to this life of crime. This is a truck stealing ring, it turned out. And
wow.
They had never been caught before, and supposedly he turned over on them, and is supposed to pay us restitution of some kind. I've never seen it done, frankly, but we had to pay the insurance money to repair this poor truck, and whatever. Thing is, we didn't tell any of the cast and crew this occurred. This occurred very early in the morning, late at night.
Right.
And by the time I woke up and found out about it 5, I was like, okay, well, what's to be done? And they're like, well, they're already sending another truck to unload the stuff into that truck, and then bring it over. And we're only going to start an hour late. And I was like, all right, just send a message out to the cast and crew, starting an hour late. Enjoy your hour of sleep, get some breakfast, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
Learn your lines. And so we didn't tell anybody about this. We didn't tell anybody about this because we don't want them talking about this. We want them thinking about the movie. And so we didn't tell anybody until like the wrap party. And then even then we didn't tell some of the stars until Fantasia. And it's funny in that video on the Blu-ray DVD that you see their reaction. They're like, what? We didn't know about this.
Right.
That was the other, near miss disaster that could have sidelined us in some horrible way.
This is so great. I got to work as a production assistant on Evil Dead when it was filmed, because it was filmed in our hometown in East Tennessee. Yeah. And so all of these horror stories are so, I mean, they had an evening where actually a guy snuck onto the set and stole all of the power tools. He left all of the camera equipment, which was 3 times the value, but evidently he just needed power tools and stole them, while the crew was sleeping 2 rooms over, kind of thing.
That's hilarious.
So, yeah. So I totally sympathize with that struggle.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it just takes a lot of time when you're making a movie and you don't have money. and you're just like calling in favors and whatever else, which I know they
Right.
do for like Evil Dead. And
A
you just gotta wait
14-day shooting schedule. So one of my questions too coming up, Tim, I'll jump ahead of you for a second there, is
Sure.
the your cast. It's a fairly large cast for such a small project. I mean, she's the lead, of course, and Giles is the second. But all of these scenes with the rest of the apartment dwellers, so to speak, that's a fairly large cast. Did you shoot those all consecutive, I assume, a couple of days with everybody kind of thing?
Well, the two things. One, all the stuff of I misspoke. It was 14 days initially to shoot. Then we went back and did some reshoots on it when we kind of decided we didn't quite have the ending we wanted, and we needed some moments within certain scenes.
Okay.
And so we decided if we're going to go back and get them, let's shoot a couple endings actually. There are alternative endings that exist, but no one has ever seen or know about it, nor we will ever say anything about it until we release some special edition.
The gold special edition.
Douchebag, Harvey Weinstein, amongst his other flaws, used to do this all the time. So I stopped buying the Reservoir Dogs at my third one. So
yeah,
I figure we'll only release one every 10 years or something. But anyway, so yeah, that exists actually. So 4 days, 4 reshoots, so total 19 days. But we shot the first 14 days in 2017. We weren't able to get the band back together, so to speak, until August, September of 2018.
Wow.
And then we didn't actually premiere at Fantasia until 2019. Didn't release until strategically, stupidly, or just having bad luck, I suppose, until April of 2020, right during COVID.
Right during COVID.
Like,
welcome to COVID.
So no theatrical release for us. So that was sort of the timeline of everything that happened. Sorry, you had a question in there, and I think I'm completely overlooked that question. What was the question again? I'm sorry.
No, the question was, so your large cast shots, I'm assuming all of those were shot consecutively with everyone because there's so many people.
So for the first time, first set of 14 days, 4 of the days were the outside, everything you see outside of the outside in the complex, the whole apartment complex,
courtyard, or whatever.
a real apartment complex. With people living there and stuff. So and they were great because they, along with most of our friends and family, were the actual cult.
Okay,
like you'll see me in there, and you'll also see my producing partner. You can do a drinking game. I'm in so many shots, like in the back. Like you go back and watch it again. You'll just see me like, whatever, like, oh my god, trying to act with my high school
Stop
drama
looking at the camera.
Yeah, yeah, I'm in the Stanhope. I don't want to give it away. Give it too much away, but there's some sort of bad thing that happens to one of the characters. I'm in that sequence. I'm in like kind of the sequences.
Okay. I know what you're talking about.
You'll see me, like, I'm literally like in every sequence where there's a big whatever. It's like all our friends and family. And if you notice at the very beginning, there's like 2 old people and like a pregnant lady waving and this and that.
Yeah,
so that's David. That's David Marmer's parents, and
of course,
and his wife, who was, when we shot it the first time, pregnant the first go round, and then we shot it in August. He'd already had the baby, and so we had to get her a fake stomach. So
of course,
that part and stuff. So, but the funny thing is, everything else you see in the movie that's interior of the apartment is actually on a sound stage. And like one stage, which we had to keep on redressing like overnight. We'd shoot like one set of scenes, and then they'd reset the whole thing to look like this Stanhope's apartment, to look like a torture room, to look like whatever it was.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's all a soundstage actually. So that was some movie magic, if you will. So that stuff was most of the rest of the shoot. My old house that we did a lot of the office stuff in when we had to, as a 100-year-old craftsman. And so we shot the dad taking the phone call every time he's talking to her on the phone, and there's the hot nurses behind him. It's sad you never see her face because she's a lovely actress, Haley Giles. But that was actually in my house. And then when we did the reshoots, we didn't have the soundstage anymore, but we realized my office, the floor looked just like the floor on the set. So they built they built a fake wall, like where on and everything.
Yeah.
And we redid the, nail into the hand and stuff like that. And like, so there's that sequence. Yeah. I mean, sorry. I mean, we should say in the beginning because
we will. I'll put a little.
It's hard
caption.
to talk about this movie without spoiling.
All of our people are used to spoilers. We spoil.
Yeah, because we do spoil things intentionally. Most of the stuff we cover is old anyway, so that's.
So we had to reshoot that sequence a little bit. We had to reshoot. We didn't get enough smoke out of the oven the first time. So we put the oven. We put the oven. We had still the oven. Put the oven in my garage. And we just shot a very close up on the thing in my garage and stuff. And then what else was there? Oh, we did a little thing where we did a close up on the torch going on the thing to give her a what's it called, a brand or whatever. We did that in my backyard. So and the funny thing is, like, we're supposed to do like the nail in the hand, and we had a fake hand and everything ready to go. And the thing is, they did this time for some dumb reason. The guys did a bladder on this side, but not this side of the hand. So when they were trying to do the thing, it wasn't working perfectly. And they took it in the bathroom, the thing just exploded, and it looked like someone had murdered somebody, like in that bathroom and stuff. And we didn't have time to clean it up, and like we were out of the house by then, shooting someplace else. And then the maid came over, and she was like, "What the hell has happened here?" Like, she thought somebody had murdered somebody in the bathroom. She called my wife, and I was like, "No, it was fucking special effects. Just taste it. If you don't trust me, it's like,
Yeah.
So
it's Cairo. Seriously, it is.
Yeah. So that was something happened. But that's, again, that was, filming the second time around. And the second time around, we also, like I said, shot like 3 different endings for it. And the ending that you see was the most popular ending at the end of the day. It was also producer's favorite ending as well. David came around to it. He didn't like it as much, but he came around to it and realized that, like, he has a filmmaker, a writer side of his brain, and he has like a director side of his brain. And as much as the director side liked it, the writer side didn't like it. But finally, kind of came around and saw that the audiences really did like the ending quite a lot and stuff.
I like it. It's very trendy with a couple of other films that have come out recently. There's one called The Invitation that came out in 2015, and then the Jordan Peele movie Us kind of ends that way as well.
Oh, it's funny. An Invitation was actually, ironically, written by one of my high school classmates.
I love that movie.
Really?
Yeah. Matt Manfredi, who's, I believe, 2 years older than me.
You're talking about the one from 2015, right? Not the vampire one.
Yeah, not the vampire one. Just like
okay, that's the one I'm talking about. The 2015 one. Yeah,
2015 one. It's about a kind of a cult as well. But Freddie and Philip Hay, his writing partner, and Philip Hay is actually married to Karen Kusama, who directed that film.
I was just researching her today.
Yeah, I sat and I called him, and this is obviously pre-COVID. We sat down and went to this place in Koreatown called Beer Belly, which was this great, like,
you are my kind of people.
Well, we went and sat down. They have like fried Twinkies in there and shit, but really good beer, because I'm a big fan of good beer. So we sat down and drank, and I told him a story about what our movie's about, and I told him, look, there's an ending, but I need you to read the script. I need you to just tell me that this isn't too similar to yours in a way. So he said, no, it wasn't. He's like, it has nothing to do with it. And so people sometimes said, oh, you ripped off The Invitation. I'm like, no, I didn't. And I can tell you, I'm also doing a movie with one of the producers of The Invitation, Lindsay Lanzanetta. And while I was like dealing with her, I showed her a rough cut. I'm like, does this some track this is like too similar to yours? She's like, no, it's fine. It has nothing to do with ours. And so both of those people from that production said that it has nothing to do with their film. So if anyone ever comes to you and says, well, rip off their film, we're not. There's some colors, but it's different, and it's, it means different things really in some ways.
I love the strength of it. I love the fact that instead of the fatalistic, because we just recently covered a bunch of 70s and 80s movies, and they tended to always end with this fatalism sort of thing, whether it's, you blew it up, you damn dirty apes, or whatever, this whole attitude. And what I like about your ending is that we see that it's spread, that it's everywhere, that it's out there, but she doesn't give up and suddenly be fatalistic. She's like, no, I'm going to fight this. I'm going to, and has that inner strength. And that works really well for me. I loved it.
Well, there's that. It's very, you talked about Jordan Peele, and I, think about his misbegotten Twilight Zone, but there's a Twilight Zone-esque sort of thing about it.
Yeah. Oh, definitely.
Sort of the end, or is it sort of ending,
Yep.
right? Where it's not like, it's a Connor or whatever, but you'll see, like, and you'll have to see for, the aforementioned sequel that we're talking about over there as well. So anyway.
I'm going to combine some questions because we've kind of been jumping around. We had mentioned Happy Accidents, but it's no accident the success of the film. I first saw it on Shudder. I read where it was on Netflix originally and reached the top 5 in viewing for a while.
What was number
and then
1? It
has since gone on to win awards at least 2 different festivals that I have in my notes. And I was wondering, how has that affected you guys, or did you attend any of those awards ceremonies?
Well, what happened was this, like, we always had it on, so I tested movies for a living, right? And that wasn't just like big studio films. This was like smaller films and stuff. Like there was a movie, The Devil Inside, before it got picked up by Paramount and made $30 million opening weekend. We were helping them like try to fix that movie.
Okay.
They didn't have any money to fix the end, unfortunately. But look, they had enough trailer moments that they could, like, basically get people in the door, and they did. Like they made like $30 million opening weekend in January. Here's a thing to note on. You should always release a horror movie in January or August if you can, because that's, there's always like going to be a big hit in there.
Off season.
Whether it's Megan or whatever. Don't ever release an independent like horror film that has no IP, original IP in October, because like, look, all the stuff that's the old stuff going to be coming out again, and you're competing against that along with like the heavy hitting stuff that the studio supposedly thinks is good, like Halloween Ends, which was, I think, dreadful.
Yeah.
But the point of it is that, I mean, look, Halloween Ends being dreadful was great for Terrifier 2, because Terrifier 2 was actually good. People wanted to see something because they were so dissatisfied from, Halloween Ends that movie made like $14 million off of hardly any marketing. I mean, it'd been in the public's eye for a long time. And I'll say that was the thing. Awareness was the thing. So awareness is key, is what I'm going to tell you. And how do you build awareness? Well, you do a festival run first, right? And in answer to your question, did we go to the festival? Yes, we went to the festival.
Great.
Yeah, I went to as many as I could, because the thing is this: you go there, you kiss the rings, you kiss the babies, you do all the press and publicity, you get the name of the film out there in that part of the world,
right?
And then by the time it comes out, at least it's on people's radars now, right?
Yeah.
Now, when you actually come out in that territory, there's another press push that happens, and all of a sudden people, I've heard of that movie. Oh, I'll spend some money on it. The whole press push is one thing. Then you do a marketing push, right? And the marketing push is, as many people get to review this film that are, if you have a good film, which we tested it, so we knew what we had. We had very little rejection of the film. So for us, we had no fear of anyone rejecting of very, very many people rejecting the film, right?
Okay.
And our distributor, Dark Sky, tried their best with their publicist to work on it as much as they could. But then at a certain point, they're just like, we got other films to work on. So I think what happens then, it's incumbent upon the producers to continue the sort of, flow of information, especially if you have another window you're opening in soon. Now, when we opened in April of 2020, we had done our festival run. We had won our awards and everything. So we knew we had some, different things going on with it. We took it to Netflix and said, hey, listen, why don't you take a look at this? And they said, no, thank you. In fact, they said, no, thank you twice.
Wow.
And then finally we came out in April of 2020. And we were sitting there in March and like, this COVID thing, it'll all blow over. By the middle of March, we were like, we are fucked. I have mortgaged and already paid off house for this. We're fucked. And so we were like, how can we switch it? Well, we switched to doing podcasts. We switched to doing every sort of interview we could, right? Anybody who wanted interviews, I don't care how big, I don't care how small they were, we were going to talk to them, right?
Right.
We did everything we could. And since we've done the festival run and had little bits of press there and this and that, we had about 15 to 20 Rotten Tomatoes accredited reviews before we actually came out, like that had been in existence. So people knew what the thing was. They knew it was good because we were like, high 80s, I want to say.
It's 88 actually.
It's 88,
still.
It's 88 now. But I mean, it started off, it was 100%. And then one person, from Fantasia gave us a bad review. And then like,
they tend to drift down a little.
Yeah, and it's all good. It's all good. So we basically opened up, didn't have a theatrical release, but all the work to sort of get the word of mouth out there, at least put the title out there, had worked because it opened up in just like North America, and it opened up and it was like we were in the top, 3 horror movies on iTunes and on Google
That's
Play.
great.
And on all the different platforms, we were like in the top 3. We weren't going to beat like Invisible Man, unfortunately. And I forget what the other movie was, but we stayed there, and we stayed there for like a month and a half, where we were like in the top 5. And so we did so well that our distributor took those numbers to Netflix and said, "Listen, look how good they did." And they're like, "All right, we'll pay you very little money, but we'll take you." We're like, thank God.
Yeah, COVID had nothing to do with it.
Yeah, we're the happy idiots. We're just so happy that like we're not making our money back from this deal. But like anyway, so they make whatever shitty deal, and we made it because we're like, look, this is the biggest and best streamer. If we can make it there, we can make it anywhere. Yep. So this is in May. We find out we're going to be on in August, right? End of August. So we basically know that we're opening up in the UK, we're opening up in Germany, we're opening up in Japan in this span of time before we actually open up in Netflix in the United States. So we're just opening up like on, what they call TVOD on iTunes, whatever, out to these different countries. Okay. So we make it a missive to talk to the sub-distributors in each of these countries. Like, hey, listen, what can we do for you? Let's get you like these actors. Let's get you line up whoever you can as journalists. We'll also reach out and do what we can. In fact, what we did, just on the side, is that I would look at like, what I consider to be shitty horror movies, right? And then I would say, okay, who gave that a good review? And then I would write that journalist a letter and say, hey, listen, we're just doing a post-mortem on how our publicist did. Just wondering if they sent you the movie because we love your site, blah, blah, blah. And they'd be like, no, they didn't send it. I'm like, let me write that wrong. But send them a copy of the movie. They would rate the movie excellent. And then we would get another Rotten Tomatoes accredited review. We started off with 40 reviews by now, and most all for me getting them, we're up to 83 reviews and certified fresh, mind you this. That was a big part of it. I wanted to be certified fresh. Mm-hmm. Here's a big thing for you, for independent filmmakers. Why do you want to be certified fresh? They say that horror movies, horror movie audiences are very forgiving. They don't really give a shit about like, what a movie scores on Rotten Tomatoes. That's true to some extent. However, if your movie like is any sort of other movie, if it has a thriller element to it, it like, waddles it's on either side of the fence, let's call it. And that number is very much important for you. So that every time this person is on iTunes looking at the things and they see that 88% certified fresh, well, fuck, maybe I'll take a chance on that little movie that stars very few stars, that, recognizable stars, let's call it, right? They're all recognizable to me. But the point, though, being that is a smart thing to do, right? Oh, yeah. I don't care who tells you what. If you have a good movie and you can get, people don't reject the film, then you need to get as many of those as you can. If your publicist or from your distributors, stop doing it, they have a lot of work to do, and do it yourself. That's what I would tell you. Yeah. So we did that the entire summer. Right. And stayed like really in the top 5, top 10. Okay. We're in the top 15. We stayed there for 3 months, made a ton of money off of that. And then come on to Netflix. Come on to Netflix end of August. And we don't know. We don't even think we're hoping we can be in the top 10. Hoping. Right. First day we're in the top 5. Holy shit. Right. This is great. Like, hey, everybody, all our friends, just put it on, like repeat,
I think it stayed there for a couple of weeks, didn't it?
No. So what happened is this: we started off at number 5. They were number 4. 4, 3, 2, 1. We went to 1. Wow. We got to 1. By the Friday, we were at 1, and we had beaten Jamie Foxx's Project Power. And Forbes wrote an article like, "Who is this no-name horror movie that just defeated Jamie Foxx's movie?" If we hadn't defeated Jamie Foxx's movie, it would have been at number 1, the longest from any movie that entire year. Like it would have beat Extraction. It would have beat Extraction or something, or whatever.
Wow.
I think it's Extraction. Okay. But we beat him, and we sent him a tweet. We're like, "Sorry we didn't take you out, dog. Game recognized game." And he didn't write us back. So, but
how funny.
But it stays in the top 5 for 8 days, and it actually never even goes into the 5 to 10. It just drops out altogether. And we're like, okay, that's weird, but all right, we'll take it. I mean, that was a good run for a movie that was shot for nothing. Oh, yeah. And that in itself gave it its own life. Netflix doesn't usually get behind things as far as independent films. Like this, here's the problem with it. God bless Netflix. They're a great platform, and but unless you're one of their originals, they don't really give a shit about you, right? Because they paid money for these things over here, and they paid some money for you, but they paid a lot more money for the stuff over there.
Oh,
so
yeah.
they're not gonna mention. We got mentioned on social media. 2 years of being on that thing, right? So anyway, it's just there's no, I don't take any offense. It's just that's how their model works. So
But now
if you
you're
ever
on
do get
other
on
platforms, right? You're everywhere out there.
So what happened was we were pretty much almost exclusive to them for like a year and a half, and then the last 6 months of that contract with them, we were non-exclusive to only SVOD platforms, so we could come on Shudder and Amazon Prime, for example, which we did like in the States.
Yep.
And then after that was over, we were just itching to get onto these other platforms because really, Tubi and Peacock and Vudu and Pluto TV and Roku TV and Zumo and Plex, all these other, things, they represent a huge portion of the population.
Oh, yeah.
That if you can dig through the noise, the problem is there's just too many movies on these sites. It's hard to get any sort of exposure, like any positive exposure and rise above the noise. But we were able to on a couple of them actually. We were like number 3 movie on Peacock for like a month and a half, and we were still in their like top 10 for horror movies and stuff like that. And when they have sort of less movies to contend with, you have a better chance in trying to maybe rise above that noise. But if you go on Tubi and stuff, it's just like, we were like popular on Tubi for a second, and then like I don't know where we are right now.
But you've got a great poster or great cover, I guess. I'm a writer, and I look at covers of books to see if I think they will do well. And I think your poster, or whatever you call that image that you guys use on streaming, is good. It's really good.
Well, yeah, that thumbnail, poster, whatever, it was, we went back and forth with them for like 2.5 months with it, and just we wanted to make something that was really iconic and kind of grabbed you. And so I think it turned out pretty well. I'll tell you what turned out even better is the trailer. Actually, the trailer got nominated for a Golden Trailer Award, which is like a totally big honor, and we lost to the Joker. So what were you gonna do? We weren't gonna
some dude on a staircase.
Yeah, we're gonna beat the Joker. So anyway.
Well, and I think your trailer works because it plays up that something is wrong, because everything in the trailer is the compilation montage of all the nice stuff, even the cat and everything. It's all the stuff that looks good, but the way the music underscores and the way she plays it, we know that's not the story. There's something, and it's very intriguing.
You don't know what it's about. And that's the thing.
Right.
Even in the last line that you think is supposed to be like Taylor Nichols' voice, we actually subbed out another voice for it because we wanted to fool people so bad, right?
Yeah,
so
definitely.
So here's the funny thing though. If people are like want to see the movie, it's so funny. We worked so hard on that trailer and it had all these accolades. But people like the movie even more when they don't know anything about it and they just go in cold.
Yes.
They don't know anything about it, and they're just like, okay, what is this? This is a supernatural movie. What's going on here? I don't understand. Oh shit. This okay.
This is intense.
Yeah. It goes to some dark places, but nothing that's overly dark. It's funny. We had a meeting with Netflix like after this was all over, and they're like, "Oh, we love your movie. Oh, you rejected us twice."
Right.
Oh no,
right.
You're the best. Like, what we like about your movie is that it's the kind of horror movie you can watch with your mom. And I'm like, I don't know whether to be insulted or like, I don't know.
There's your new tagline. Other than no pets allowed, your new tagline is, you can watch it with your mom.
We take it as a compliment, obviously, because it means that it has a lot of different, a lot of different people. It appeals to a lot of different people.
Right.
Which is also interesting in itself, because usually horror movies, and we tested movies, you test horror movies like from like 17 to, 39. That is maybe it's 45 to some extent. But that's generally when you test horror movies. It turns out that like our audience is like, we have a huge portion that's like 35 and plus, like into the 60s. The 60s that really enjoys this movie. So you can actually not only watch this with your mother, but you can watch it with your grandmother, apparently.
Yeah, there you go.
So, that's just the thing. So yeah, it's an interesting thing. But like, look, we're happy that it's on these different platforms, which is another reason we're here, talking to you guys. And in addition to you being wonderful gentlemen, like we're always trying to push the thing, because like, look, for every part of your film's journey, you want to do a certain marketing push for it. to sort of bring awareness to the fact that this is on a new platform, to try to, and especially if you have a sequel in the works, then you definitely want people to watch the first one, or know it's available, or heard of it in some way where they're just like, oh, there's a sequel. Let me go back and watch this movie and make these guys 22 cents or whatever.
Right.
So yeah, so you want there to be awareness. Awareness is key, as I always say, for everything you're doing, especially in film that doesn't have existing IP. It's not a sequel to anything. It's not like, it wasn't a short story or a story of Stephen King or something. It's a completely original work. We needed to have awareness. We need to build awareness. And that's the whole thing about, trying to help market your film as a producer, or just as another party that's part of the film. Like if even as a director, you can go and do these things. It's better to have a producer doing this. You should frankly be going and working on other creative things and stuff. But it's something that as independent filmmakers, a lot of people don't do. And that's sort of a shame, because there's a lot of good movies that I'm like, man, that's a good movie. How come I've never heard of it?
Right.
I mean,
The Invitation.
They did not get the word out. I mean, The Invitation actually did pretty well. Invitation actually won South by Southwest and got a theatrical opening and made, I think, probably about $1 million, and that's pretty good for an independent film. Even in 2015, that was a pretty good thing for that. And that film actually even now gets a lot of accolades. It's supposedly one of the best movies of the 2010s and stuff like that. So it definitely, I mean, if I could have the success that movie had, I'll be very happy. But that movie's, I mean, certain times there are not enough noises made. So the horror audience loves discoveries, and they're a very vocal, loyal audience who will go and talk about it. I mean, I belong to 100 different, 4 or 5 different, Facebook groups about horror, who have 400,000 members, or 20,000 members, 40,000 members, and I'll go in there and stir the pot sometimes. Hey, you guys seen 1BR? No. Yeah. What is it about? Well,
what's it about?
Here's the trailer. And I just I'll walk away. I just walk away and run into the night and what does it hurt? Just give me 2 seconds, stir the pot a bit. And so.
But yeah, I think you're right. Getting the word out there, getting it in these different markets where people can appreciate it and see it for the multitude that it is. Does it have some gory elements? Yeah. Does it have some very, very terrifying elements? Yeah. But also it has the suspense, a very Hitchcockian feel to it. All that beginning
an
is
underlying
very
sense
much
of dread as well.
Yeah. A lot of people compare it to Polanski films.
It's very Rosemary's Baby.
Very Polanski.
Yes.
Yep.
Tenant or what have you, but yeah, I mean, look, at the end of the day, it's awareness. And so when we did all these things, movie on its own just started hitting. I mean, we were #1 in Australia, New Zealand, for iTunes horror, for example. We were #1 in every Middle Eastern country. And in fact, our only theatrical debut there, and it was during COVID, they had a 100-person theater, and 70 of the seats were taped off and had tape in between them and stuff. Our friend went and checked it out, and it was all women coming to see it. And we're still weirdly, I don't know if it's because they maybe culturally they feel like they're prisoners or something.
Isolation.
It's still in the top 50, top 100 there on iTunes. After 3 years of being out, that it plays for some reason in that country very well. A bunch of countries in South America, we were #1. I mean, it was #1 in 10 countries, I want to say.
That's great.
And it stayed there for periods of time where we're holy shit. And so look, I have no fear, and the fact that it was #1 on Netflix and actually played very it was definitely in their top 15, top 10, top 15 horror movies. The 2 years it was on there, right? Which means that anywhere from 5 to 6 million people are finishing, or not only watching that movie, they're finishing that movie every month, right? So Netflix never tells you their numbers, but I can just say that Nielsen and different people have trackers, so it's good to figure out. You can get a guesstimation of what you think you've done. And I can tell you, a lot of people have seen this movie. So it was, did we get paid shitty money from Netflix? Yeah. Did a lot of people see the movie on Netflix? Yeah.
Yeah.
So it works out that people would come see a sequel, hopefully, is the idea.
And okay, so let's go there finally. I mean, we're talking about sequel.
Yeah.
You mentioned it a few times. That made me, because one of our questions was, so such a great creative team. Are they going to get back together and do something in the future, maybe? And you suddenly say sequel. Does that mean David's coming back? Does that mean,
Yeah,
Giles might, Nicole, any of them?
I mean, we can't say who. We won't say anything.
You're
about
in
the
development.
actors.
Yeah.
No, I mean, we finished the script. The script's done.
Oh, sweet.
Oh, wow.
But no, David's writing and directing this again.
Excellent.
He's our brother. In fact, he's like one of the producers in the film. He put in almost as much money as we did in certain respects. So he owns his own IP. Like, if we were the owners of the IP, we brought him in to own it too. So he's got this into, he keels over and stuff. So he'll always be part of this team. We're definitely the what was the guy's name? Oh God, Halloween's producer, Akkad. I went to school with his daughter, actually.
Akkad.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. Mustafa Akkad, isn't it?
Mustafa
Yeah.
Akkad. Yeah. Sadly, him and my classmate both got blown up in a cafe bombing in Lebanon.
No.
Sadly, yeah,
Wow.
it was very sad.
Wow.
But look, I got to spend a little time around him, and like, he was just like, listen, as long as you can own your stuff, it's better. My kids are gonna produce them, and sure enough, they do. They do.
Yeah.
His sons produce the Halloween films and stuff, and so, like, it's good to own your IP if you can. You may not make any money for a while with it, but if it's successful, then maybe the sequel will make money.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, so same team is together. Again, my producing partner is there. I have all of the same producers, and script great. I can't say much about it, obviously.
Of course.
But this is it's definitely the first one was Alien. The second one is Aliens. I can tell you that.
There you go.
So it's a much bigger kind of playground. So we'll see.
Well, when
much
you're
bigger, much bigger budget, I can tell you that.
When you're ready for that marketing push, definitely look us up again, because we'd love to have you back, and you can tell us all the secrets you can't tell us, sort of thing. When's the DVD release? Is the DVD out already?
Oh yeah. Blu-ray's out. Blue's been out.
Okay, I haven't seen the Blu-ray yet, so I've got to catch it just for your behind the scenes.
I mean, even though the film came out in 2020, it's the date on it is 2019, at least on IMDb.
Well, 2019, they do what they do is they say whenever you premiere at the festival, that's what they always put for IMDb. But it didn't come out till 2020, and then I think the Blu-ray came out in June of 2020. Like, it was, I figured it was early. Yeah. It doesn't. The Blu-ray / so we have sub distributors. Like, we have a distributor that then farms it to sub distributors, and so some of them decide to have DVD or Blu-ray releases. I think, for example, in Australia, it's just DVD. I think the UK, I don't think they even have anything over there. But there is whoever was in charge of Italy, I think, in Germany. I think there's a Blu-ray out there, and it is gorgeous. Because I actually bought when the euro was, I think it's still in our favor, actually, dollar to euro instead of that. But I bought the Italian version, and it cost me like less than the American version. To be honest, I haven't opened it because it's just so beautiful. I want to keep it as a collector's thing.
It's in mint condition.
Well, it is. The Italian one opens up and has all these like great overlays and different things to pull out and everything, and has like really good artwork on it and everything.
Wow. Okay.
But I'm not sure if it has the extras on it. That's the only thing. But the American one definitely has all the extras on it, and the extras include like a ton of interviews that we did. In fact, our Fantasia, our premiere night, like right after we premiered and everyone was applauding, and then they asked the questions, and that's the one we showed the footage of the handsome felon story.
Felon. Yep.
So that's definitely on there. But yeah, I mean, I think the Blu-ray is actually worth owning for the extras that are on there. I wish we could have had more commentary and whatever else, but we're independent cinema. Like, Blu-rays, you'd think would not be a loss leader like they are. I mean not a loss leader, but you're getting paid very little. You're making like, I did all this effort, I made $1, like, and that buck is split like between everybody, like, so it's like so 5 cents, you're saying 5 cents, it's like, it's almost not worth it. But the horror community is big collectors of physical media in this.
Yes.
Right? So I'm really hoping, like, the next time we go through, we'll be able to do commentary. We'll be able to like do all the deleted scenes, and there were some really cool deleted scenes. In fact, that, I mean, you wouldn't believe what directions we were gonna go.
Like the exploding hand in the bathroom.
I mean, yeah, there's some of that we don't cast that on film, unfortunately. But there's certain story things that you would be surprised that, oh, they were going to do that. Oh, you did this instead. That's so interesting.
Nice.
So
I love
yeah,
those kind of things. That's my kind of
yeah.
that's my kind of deal. Yeah.
Well, I think that if like, look, my hope is that when we're coming out with this sequel, maybe they might release an updated Blu-ray or DVD.
Yeah.
Maybe we can convince a lot of the people around the world to do it and stuff. If not, look, buy the American one. Pay like $3 extra. Just get the slow shipping. It'll come to you when it comes to you.
It'll get there.
It'll get there. So
right.
Yeah. Hope so.
All right. Well, it was great talking to you today. I think that's going to wind up all of our questions because I've been going through them as we've talked and we pretty much answered them all. Well, it was great talking to you, and I guess we can end it here.